Hi everyone, this is Tuplex. Welcome back. I've been working over here in the uranium processing area and the power plant to try to convert to a bot-based setup for processing the fuel cells and also getting fuel to the reactors. So what I've done already is I put in a requester chest here. So here I'm requesting spent fuel cells, and they'll get brought over here automatically. I have the plutonium going into a requester chest. I removed the inserter that was making plutonium fuel cells, and the reason I did that is so that I could start to accumulate some, because you'll see that later on we've got this MOX fuel research available, and this will allow us to make uranium fuel cells from 1 piece of plutonium and 9 pieces of uranium. And I think that's a more efficient use of the plutonium than making plutonium fuel cells, because the plutonium fuel cells use 19 pieces of uranium-238, and they only last half as long, right? A plutonium fuel cell has 4 gigajoules. A uranium fuel cell has 8 gigajoules. So when we get to the point that we can make uranium fuel cells with 1 piece of plutonium, that's gonna help us out a lot. And then we don't have to worry about using plutonium fuel cells anymore. And honestly, I wish I had thought of that before I created all those plutonium fuel cells. But what we could do is, let me empty out my inventory a bit here. All right, I'll just throw down a silo. This is one of the things that I like about having silos. It's easy to dump stuff out. I'll keep my bots with me just in case. Oh, speaking of bots, I did complete my my Mark I power armor layout. So we've got a fusion reactor, I've got 2 Mark II batteries, 1 exoskeleton, and then I have 2 personal roboports. That gives me 50 bots. We could add a third, but for now I'm using the night glasses, the perfect night glasses. These are from Afraid of the Dark, and these essentially make it so that you can't tell if it's nighttime or not. See, if I remove them, now we can see that it's night, but you put them in and night and day pretty much look the same. Not exactly the same, but pretty close. All right, so you can see that I strung some roboports over here, since we're going to need roboport coverage to get fuel cells in and out from the reactors. And one thing I had to do once I got over here is I realized that as we start to expand the reactor array, like we'll expand it downward, I would say at this point, eventually we're going to get far enough away that this roboport up here is not going to reach anymore. And we could put another one down there, but I thought it would be a good idea to have to leave a space here along the side, and I'm just doing it on this side because this side's full already. But I'm going to leave a space on this side for roboports, and we could even put a walking path down there. So essentially, what we'll do is I'm just going to kind of show you the layout here. Whoops. All right, get rid of that. Yeah, so essentially we'll have 2 more reactors there as a next step. And then let me just blueprint some of these heat pipes. And then we'll have heat pipes. And then the first heat exchangers will go like right there. Okay. And then we'll leave this column empty for roboports. Okay, and I left 2 tiles here because I'm going to need an inserter and a chest, and then we'll have the roboports and then the rest of the stuff. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that so that it doesn't beep at us. And then what I've done over here is I set the active provider to here on the output so that when a spent fuel cell is put in the chest, it'll automatically get picked up by the bots. You know, they won't accumulate here. They'll go back to be processed. And then here I just put in logistic request for 50 uranium fuel cells. And actually I'm going to clear that now because I want to use up the plutonium fuel cells instead. So in order to do that, let's change the requests on those. Unfortunately, I don't have too many, and I'm going to try not to make any more so that this doesn't get too complicated. And then the only other thing I would need to do is change this to a plutonium fuel cell. Right, so now the latch will set when we pick up plutonium rather than uranium. Okay, and unfortunately it brought all of them to the same one, so we'll do that. All right, and I'm going to have to manually insert here since we missed when the signal went out to add the fuel, the chest was still empty. Okay, so you can see that this depletes significantly faster than the plutonium ones do. But we'll just go ahead and use all those up, and then when we run out of power, we'll come back and change it back to the uranium fuel cells. Although there might be a way that I can automate that. Why don't we try to do that so that it switches over automatically. All right, so uranium fuel cells go in there. Actually, we've got quite a lot of them. So let's, well, first let's get my stuff. Yeah, for now, I'll just put another requester chest and put the rest. And I want to come over here and make some changes there. But let's see if we can come up with a way to automatically switch over from plutonium to uranium. All right, so I'm going to need a couple of decider combinators. Okay, so one thing we can do here is we can say, let's put this over here because I want this to connect to the logistics network. All right, so we'll set this to read logistic network contents. And now we can see on the inputs that we've got some spent plutonium fuel cells. There's some plutonium, and then we have a bunch of uranium fuel cells. Okay, so what we can do is we can tell this that if plutonium fuel cells are greater than 0, then we'll output plutonium. Okay, so this will essentially give us a signal. If we have any plutonium fuel cells, this will give us a signal to use plutonium fuel cells. And then, actually, let's put this down here. Can I move this over? No, that's as far as it'll go. Okay, let's move it over here then. All right, and then this one we'll say if plutonium fuel cells is less than or equal to 0, then we output uranium fuel cells. Okay, so this way we'll send a signal for uranium when there's uranium available, or we'll send a signal for plutonium when plutonium is available. Otherwise, we'll send a signal for uranium. Okay, so, and right now we can see that the output is, we're getting an output of the uranium fuel cell. Okay. All right, see, now the problem here is I'm going to want to use it up. So here's the problem. When we have uranium available, or plutonium available, and it goes in the requester chest, then we don't see it anymore on the logistic network. So we can change that by using a buffer chest. Okay, see, so now we can see the fuel cells that are in there. And you can still request to the buffer chest, but then they still appear in the inventory. So if there was another request somewhere, then they could be taken out of the buffer chest. After the, well, no, I don't think it needs even to meet the required level, but they can be taken from the buffer chests. Like, for example, let's put a request here, and let's request 5 plutonium fuel cells to there, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if it, oh yeah, and then here you could say request from buffer chests, and it would take it out. But that's a flag that you would have to set. Otherwise, it won't take anything out. Okay, so now we can still see that, so we'll get the proper signal coming out of here. Whoops. Okay, that was already connected. And then I'll connect that there, and connect that there. And then what we'll do is we'll use the signal to set the request. Okay, so now in this case, we're only setting a request for 1 because I have the output set to 1. And I think that's fine, because then we'll only put in 1 at a time. And actually, we'll never only receive 1, because the bots will, even if there's a request only for 1 piece, the bots will pick up whatever stack size they can pick up. So right now, the bots have a stack size of 3, so I think the minimum that we'll get is 3. Okay, so this way, as long as we have plutonium fuel cells available, these will request plutonium fuel cells, and when they're not, they will request uranium fuel cells. Okay, and then we need to add some logic to this so that we're using the appropriate signal to set it. So I'm going to make a couple more deciders. And essentially, I want this to be set to whatever signal we're getting out from here. Now, why haven't we put more fuel in? Because we're low on steam. There's no fuel. I think I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna have to set this. I think I'm gonna have to set it and reset it manually. Okay. Now it seems that I have messed it up. All right. You know what? Let's just forget this. Yeah. Let's just use it all up. All right, and we'll change. I'll change this back to a requester chest. You know, after this, I'm not. Once I use these plutonium fuel cells, I'm not planning to make any more of them. Let's change that to 10. I don't think we really need 50. Okay, so we'll just use up all the plutonium, and then we'll go back to doing it the way that we were previously, that we know works. Oh, it's because, yeah, it's because they're not getting a signal of the used up uranium coming out. That's why it's not working. We would need to add another one of these to look for used up plutonium fuel cells in order for it to reset. So, where's this getting the input from? From there. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is where the reset signal is coming. Yeah, I would have to set up another latch. So I'll just leave this the way that it is for now, and then I'll reset it once these fuel cells get used up. And we'll know when they get used up because we'll run out of power. And then we'll have to come over and fix it. But fortunately, as soon as we put more fuel in, the power will come back. Speaking of power, we're not using too much. I have seen this peak up to about 100 megawatts. But we're not using too much right now. We are still making the science packs that we need for the Power Armor Mark II. The other research has been done. The other thing I want to do is, now that I have logistic system unlocked, we can do recursive blueprints. I want to do that so we can perhaps have some fun with that. So I'm going to add that to the queue at the end there. And then once that's done, I'm going to stop producing science packs, and then I'll just set the labs for mining research or something, just to use up as many of the science packs that I have already. I'll probably keep the high tech running just until it gets even with the other ones. But the goal would be just to use up the rest of the science packs that we've got in inventory. Okay, so the other thing that I want to do is I want to use up the spent plutonium. Plutonium fuel reprocessing. Okay, and we get plutonium back, and then we also get a chance to get more uranium. Okay, so I'm going to set this up. I don't think I have the materials to make another centrifuge. Yeah, you know what? I don't want to mess this up too bad. Let's go back to the base. I'll get what I need to make another centrifuge, and we'll set up a separate facility to do that. Let's see here. What can I get rid of? I can get rid of that. I might even have one in inventory someplace. I don't think I do, but we'll give it a try. All right, so once we're done with this, I think the next step will be to set up our first refinery on the train network. Another thing that I've done recently is I filled up the depot. We'll also need to finish setting up the depot to handle the emptying of chests. Okay. Get rid of that. We can get rid of that. All right, it looks like I don't have what I need to do that. So I need to come over and get some concrete, which we're producing down here. This is not in the robot network yet. What do I need? 100. Okay, and I need steel and red circuits. I think the red circuits are going to be the hard part. Okay, and then we'll grab some steel over here. Okay, and then I need 100 gears, which I will grab so that we don't have to handcraft those. There we go. And I think we'll just take the plane. We'll probably get there sooner. I'm tempted to do the afterburner research, although it might make this thing too fast to be usable. Okay, so we'll put another one of these up here. Let's say we'll set that to plutonium fuel reprocessing. I'll put a requester chest for spent plutonium fuel cells. Where are they? Oh, there they are. Okay, and then I can put that stuff in my trash. They were accumulating over here, but they hadn't been emptied out yet because they didn't have any place to go. But I think those bots should be on their way with it now. All right, and then this will give us plutonium and or uranium, so we can just have that output to a requester chest. There we go. So here's, well, I guess here's the value in using plutonium. It takes 1 plutonium to make a fuel cell and a bunch of uranium-238. And then you get, well, no, you get 2 from every 5. So yeah, so you're not creating plutonium. I guess that would make sense. All right. So let's try to clean this up here. I've got these storage silos, which I can use to replace these. The storage silos have 300, what is it? I think it's 320 slots. Yeah, the storage silo has 320 slots versus 256 in all the other structures. So that's a little bigger. All right, so we'll convert all of this to bot-based. and I could turn that into an active provider. We can get rid of that, get rid of this. Okay, and then we put an active provider here. Actually, let's put active providers there as well. Let's put active providers there. We'll just put everything in the storage. Yeah, and then as our needs increase, the nice thing about doing this is that if I need more storage later, I can just come and put down a couple more of these storage silos and I won't have to change anything else. Okay, so now over here we're going to need a requester chest. Oh, let's make that active as well. Okay, and I only put 50 bots over here because normally there's not going to be a lot of stuff to move around. But until these chests get emptied, it'll take a few minutes. Okay, and then I'm going to have to change this to connect to the logistic network instead. So we'll set this so that when uranium fuel cells are less than 100, we'll make more. Okay, and that's going to be quite a while. Okay, so there go our spent plutonium fuel cells. So here, yeah, I'm not going to make any more of these. At least not right now. Yeah. No, I think the best thing for us to do is going to be to make uranium fuel cells. So why don't we try to do this research now as well? It's going to take a while. Yeah, so I'll pick that up. Get rid of the uranium. This is okay. Okay, so here we're going to need to request uranium. We need to request uranium of both types. Okay, and I think I'll leave the iron plate fed by the belts. Okay, so everything should be all set now. Yep, so we can see we've got 37,000 uranium-238. We have only 37 uranium-235. But hopefully sometime soon we'll start getting some more from this. And then further down the line, we'll be able to, once this MOX fuel is done, we'll be able to use plutonium to make uranium fuel cells. So how do we get more plutonium? Just from the reprocessing. I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to have to make a spreadsheet and run through the math on this. Because here we'll be able to use 1 plutonium and 9 uranium to get a fuel cell. Right? And to get the plutonium itself, yeah, the only ways to get plutonium are from the nuclear fuel reprocessing or the plutonium fuel reprocessing, which soon we're not going to be doing anymore. Once MOX fuel is done, then we'll just make. So I think what we'll have to do is, whenever we have a piece of plutonium, we'll use it to make a fuel cell. And when we don't have any plutonium, then we'll just use uranium to make the fuel cells, which requires more uranium-238. And then hope that balances out so that we don't just end up with tons and tons of uranium-238. I mean, I'm guessing that these recipes were designed so that you can eventually balance out your production of uranium. Because here we're only getting one piece of uranium for every 99 pieces of 238. Right? So that means that every time we make a uranium fuel cell, we have about 80 pieces of uranium-238 left over. So what we really need is a way to use up more of the uranium-238. And I suppose that's where this recipe comes in, because then we're going to be getting plutonium for free. And then we can use plutonium combined with some of the extra uranium-238 that we have to make more fuel cells. But to be honest, I can't see this using enough uranium-238 to consume everything. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. And at the end, if we end up just stockpiling tons and tons of uranium-238, we can either just live with it, or we can uninstall the mod and go back to the old way with Cover-X processing. That would be the fail-safe option. Okay, let's see how we're doing on these fuel cells. Okay, there's still a few left. Not too many. So once these are used up, I'm going to have to go back here and reset the latch to get everything to work properly again. Or maybe I don't, because it's not gonna, it won't insert anything. It won't insert the uranium fuel cell until all the plutonium fuel cells are gone, because you can only have one type of fuel in there at a time. So it might just sort itself out, but I'll have to keep an eye on it. Okay, so now that we have the recipe for Power Armor Mark II available, I'm going to want to make some of that. For that, we're going to need speed module 3s and efficiency module 3s, which are going to take some time to accumulate. Let's head back to the main base. And that's just because I'm still making high-tech science packs, which means I'm not going to have any blue circuits available for my own use. We can go take a look and see how we're doing there. Yep, it's going quite slowly because we are severely short on red circuits, and that's because we are severely short on plastic. Okay, so one thing I can do to help things would be to scale up the plastic production here. Which is going to require more oil. Okay, yeah, so it looks like I just need more refining. Because I have a full oil tank, so that means that I've got plenty of oil. I'm just not processing it quickly enough to make enough petroleum to keep all that red circuit production going. So, so between now and the next episode, I'll scale this up to 7 or 8 refineries. I'm trying to recall now what the standard ratio is. Actually, I can look that up. Let me pull up my cheat sheet here real quick. Factorio cheat sheet. It would be cool if I had a second monitor. Let's see. Oil refining. So for advanced oil, yeah, the standard ratio for cracking, or at least a simple ratio, is 8 refineries, 1 machine cracking heavy to light, and 7 machines cracking light to petroleum. Okay, and here we've got 4. Here we've got 4, 1, and 3. Okay, so I could get rid of this solid fuel production. I could use some of those refineries to expand the light oil cracking, and then I'll just add some more refineries, and then we'll be able to get a lot more petroleum. So, like I said, I'll do that between now and the next episode, and then we'll take it from there. Thanks a lot for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.